We're beginning to read the whole Torah all over again. We're beginning with the book of Genesis, and we start with the creation of the world. It begins with God creating the whole world from nothing. The mystics teach us that what God did was withdraw some of God's self to create a space in the oneness of God for creation to exist. That before creation, there was only God. God was all that existed. God was all that will ever exist and did ever exist, because God exists outside of time and space. God created time and space. God, so to speak, withdrew to allow there to be space for creation to exist somewhat seemingly independent of God. We also learn from the Zohar that there were 7 things that existed before the creation of the world that we read about in the book of Genesis. And these things are, 1, Torah, that Torah existed before the world was created, and that God used the Torah, whatever this means, that God used the Torah to create the world, that God used the Torah as a blueprint, so to speak, to create the world. So Torah existed before creation. The temple that was one day to be in Jerusalem, please God, will one day be there again. The third temple will come down from heaven or be created, but that the temple was in existence before the creation of the world. Also, the idea and the capacity to do teshuvah, which we've just come out of a season that's all focused on teshuvah, on coming back to our oneness, coming back to our essence, coming back to who we are, that ability to return, to do the work of teshuvah, returning to our true self, that was put into the world before creation. We also understand that Gan Eden and its antithesis, Gehenna, were in existence before the creation of the world. So this place that Adam is put into, this Garden of Eden, was created before creation. The heavenly throne that God sits on, so to speak, the heavenly throne was in existence before creation. And finally, the name of Mashiach, the name of the Messiah, was something that was in existence before creation. So what this teaches us is that we exist within a construct of time and space. And we read about the creation of mankind in this week's Torah portion. And we read about 2 different creation stories of mankind. And Rabbi Soloveitchik gives us 2 descriptions of what they are. The first one is the majestic man, that man was created male and female, that the first creature, human, that was created was male and female, and that they were separated and brought face to face, and that they were told to subdue the earth, that they had dominion over the earth, and they could control it and should be taking care of it. And the God that created this first man was described as Elohim, as a God of justice, a God of judgment, that this was the God that created this first man that was male and female together and then separated and was given dominion over the earth. Second man was created by Elohim, but also by Hashem, that the attribute of love and kindness, the expression of God in the world that's giving and kind, that love expression of Hashem was the expression of God that created the second man. The second man, known given the term by Rabbi Soloveitchik of being covenantal man, that we're in relationship to each other, that it's not good for man to be alone, that man was created from the earth, that God collected the earth, brought it from all 4 corners of the planet and collected it together and blew into this form that was created from dust of the earth, blew into it a divine soul. And that we read about that every morning in our morning prayers, that God created us from the earth and blew into us a soul, that we are a creation that is intimately in relationship to God, that we stand erect, that we are created in the image of God. And this is given many different interpretations, but a few of them are that we, like God, are creators. We, like God, have free will. We can choose how to act in the moral domain. We have freedom to choose, that we stand erect, that we bring heaven down to earth, that we have capacity to communicate, to have ideas, to connect with the creator of the universe and that created us, that we have many attributes that are divine-like, that we are an admixture of heaven and earth, and we can bring that heaven the heavenly aspects down into this world. So mankind is created in the image of God. The second man is described that way. And it's also described in this week's Torah portion that it is not good for man to be alone, that we should be in partnership, that we're created for connection, that we're created to be in partnership, we're created to be with other people. And this Adam that was created as the second creation story, this covenantal man, was put to sleep, and from his side was brought this other creation called Chava. And Adam is given the task of naming all the creatures in the world, and he names them all, and he names himself Adam, from the earth, from the Adama, from the ground, and he names his counterpart, his partner, he names her Chava, because she is the source of all life, that she is the one who's going to be bringing life into the world, and they're a partnership together bringing life into the world. So we have these two narratives of the creation of man. One is that man was created male and female and separated. The other one, that man was created as a single entity, and that out of his side was brought another being that he then names Chava, but that we are meant for and hardwired for connection, that we're hardwired to have a relationship with each other and with the divine. And that before God created man, it says in this week's Torah portion that it's described that God says, "Let us make man." What does that mean? That God asks something else for input. Let us make man. And there are again many commentaries on this. A couple of them are that God consulted with the angels. That God is demonstrating that sometimes you need to confer with others before you do something. So God confers with the angels. He asks the angels who were created on the second day, shall we create man? And obviously he does go ahead and create man. There are other interpretations of what it means when it says, let us make man, that God consulted with the earth. Because as I just mentioned, that we are a composite of earth and a divine soul. So God consulted with the earth. Let us make man. Together, the earth and God are going to create this entity that is known as man. So let us create man. God consults with the earth. And another understanding is that God consulted with all the divine attributes, all the ways in which God manifests God's self in the world through kindness, through discipline, through strength, through perseverance, through all these different ways, the Sephirot, all the different mystical ways that God expresses God's self in the world, that God imbued mankind with those things, that we have the capacity to be godlike by having these same attributes embedded inside of who we are. And so we are a composite of these divine attributes that we can manifest. We just went through Simchat Torah, where we're breaking down the barriers that separate us from God and all of these attributes that we want to be connected to as God is flooding the world with them. We want to collect those. We want to be a vessel for those, and then we want to project them out into the world. So God says to the attributes, together we're going to make this creature called mankind that's not just an animal doing its instincts, that it has the capacity to manifest divine attributes into the world. And that's who we are, a being that has the capacity to manifest divine attributes into the world. And the last entity, so to speak, that God consults with before God creates mankind, as he says, let us make man. He consults with man himself, indicating to us that we are not formed whole. We're not formed complete. We're not formed in a way that is perfect. We are definitely not perfect, and we are definitely fallible. God says to man, let us make man. So together we're going to make ourselves. Each one of us is in a process of manifesting ourselves, and we have God helping us, but we also have to step up to the plate. God says, I'm going to make you, but you have this potential, but you have to step up and you have to manifest it and you have to contribute. And so God is saying, let us make man. Another interpretation is, let us make man means that God is saying, man, you also have to make yourself. You are not going to come into the world fully formed. You have to make yourself. You are responsible and you are held accountable for what it is that you do and how you do it and what you want and how you strive for that. That's part of who you are in the world. That yes, you are a creature like no other. Yes, you stand erect and you have free choice and you have capacity to think and you have capacity to communicate and create with your words and be a creator. But also, not only do you create others and you look after the world, but you have to create yourself. That we have to create ourselves, and that's what another interpretation of what it means that when God says, let us make man, that God is consulting with mankind to make mankind, that we have to make ourselves, we have to contribute to who we are in the world. So all of these ideas, so the idea that there are these 7 things that existed before the creation of the world, there are the Torah and the temple and Gan Eden and Gehenna and the heavenly throne and the name of Mashiach and the Torah and the capacity to do teshuvah, to return to our pure essence. These were in the world before creation, and they're there for us to access. We have access to those things. Creation happened in 6 days. At the end of the 6th day, there are 10 things that were created at the end of those 10 days that didn't come into manifestation until later on. For instance, the rainbow. The rainbow was created at the end of the 6th day, but it didn't show up until the end of the flood, which we're going to read in Parshat Noach next week. The donkey, the talking donkey that we read about in the Parsha with Bilam and Balak, that donkey was created right now, but on the 6th day, but didn't manifest itself till later. The manna that dropped out of heaven that God fed the Jewish people with in the desert when they were leaving and fleeing from the slavery in Egypt, that manna was created at the beginning of time. So everything's in creation, everything's in potential, everything's there for us to access. And we who are created between heaven and earth have the job and the responsibility to bring it down and to access it and to use it to be our best selves and to try to the best of our abilities to bring as much godliness and as much holy, divine light into the world as possible.